Sometimes we need to validate the part during the engineering process. For example, to check the design requirements like exceeding the maximum weight. When I increase the height of my part, the weight is increasing too. I get a visual note when the weight exceeds a limit. Additionally, I can get the information report of the current weight or other interactions. Now I will show you how to get this dialog and how to get interactions when a button is clicked. So first of all, we need the weight of the solid we'd like to validate. So therefore we need a measurement. I go to the analysis ribbon tab and I need the measure function. So here I change the filter to solid body. Sometimes it's easier to use the filter. And here I choose the object. So now I select the body here inside, and what we need is a associative measurement. So to get an associative measurement, to get a measurement feature in the Part Navigator and the expression, I have to select this option called Create an Associative Measure Feature. And when I finished, I confirm with OK. So now you see in the Part Navigator we have the measurement feature inside, and now we have to define some expressions. And for this we change to Tools and we need the expression editor. So you see I have a group validation, so there's an optional thing what you can do here, and you see that we have now inside the expressions the measurement. So for better overview, I rename the measurement, for example mass value, and then I can go on to define some other expressions. So we need a height expression. That means I create a new one called height and with a value. So this is what we need to control the height of the body and to see the effect of the weight when we change the height. So then we need the limit, for example 5, and here you have to check the dimensionality. So default is length, but what we need for this expression is we need the mass dimensionality. So this is important, and so please check the dimensionality. So now we can go on to create more expressions. So to get the dialog box, we need a function for this, and we would like to see this dialog when the actual weight, the mass value, exceeds the limit of 5. So therefore I create a new one, and now what we need here is a if then else condition. So we need this statement like this called if the mass value. So we have to check if this value exceeds the limit. That means if mass value is greater than the limit, then something should happen. And we'd like to have a dialog. So for this I use the UG info dialog function to get this dialog when we have exceed the limit. So in the definition of the UG info dialog function, so the first is that we can type in information in this dialog box, and this is what we have to define in curly bracket and in quotation mark. So for the first line, for example, I write info, second line, so we have to separate with a comma, and again in quotation mark, the second line, maximum weight exceeded. So this is the text, the first two lines. And then we have to define the title of this box, also in quotation mark, for example, validation. And then we have to define the three buttons. So there are three buttons where we can use in this dialog box. So we need a name for this button. First button, information. Then we have a second button, cancel. And we don't need the third one, so therefore I have only to type in quotation mark. And I close this with a bracket. And else 0. So now what does it mean? So now you see we have a 0. So that's true because the actual weight mass value is 3.5, and so it is less than 5. So this condition is not true, so we don't have a 1 or something else. And later on, when we select or when we press the button information, so then we get also another value, and cancel again, so also we get a different value here as the answer, and then we can go forward to have some special interaction with these buttons. So if it is true, so then we'd like to have to print out the value. So therefore I need another expression, for example, print value. And here it is similar to the first if then else statement. That means if the output of dialog is equal to 1, then we have UG print value. This is the function for this, and we'd like to have the mass value, else 0. So now it is 0 because the if then else statement isn't true in this case, and so we don't have a print value. So now we can test it. So that means I changed the limit here, which is less than the mass value, for example 3. And now we see what happened. You see that the dialog is now visible because the if then else statement is true, but for the value it is 0. So this is due to the selection of the buttons. Now if I select the information button, you see what happened in the background. So now we have the value 1, and in the print value expression we typed in if dialog equal to 1, then we would like to see to print out the value, and this is the effect that we now have the information inside with the weight of the mass value. So now I can change back to 5 And now you see we have a 0 in the dialog as a value, and the limit, and the if then else statement in the print value isn't truth, so we have a 0. So again, what happened if I change again the limit and now I select the cancel button? Nothing. So you see that we have the value 2, it is for the second button, and we don't have an interaction with this, so nothing happens, the dialog is closed, and that's it. And now I change back to 5. So this is the initial situation. And last, I'd like to have a visualization of the mass value on the solid. So we have to substitute the x and y. And for this, we have to change the type of the mass value. So now you see we have the number, but what we need is a string value. So therefore, again, I create a new expression, mass string, for example, and I can convert it using the format function. And here in quotation mark, I have the %1.1f. This is the first part. So that means that we'd like to convert it in a float point number. And the second statement is the value. It is the mass value, what we would like to convert. And we look for the result. So I forgot one bracket. And now we see that we have the 3.6. So this is what we get as the result, but we'd like to have the unit of it. And this is what we can do here to combine different strings together using a plus and quotation. So I need a space character and again a plus, and in quotation mark kilograms. So, and now you see what's happened. We can add different strings together. We can combine it using the plus and something in quotation mark. So now we finished the definition part and we can go on with the next step. So the last step is to link the weight value to this placeholder. So that means we have to substitute the x, y with the weight. And additional, we have to change the control of the length of the sketch of the solid. That means we go inside of the sketch and then we have to change the 110 in this case. It is this dimension, and this is what we have to change with the height expression. Double click on the dimension, and now we can directly type in height because this is what we have defined in the expression editor. And then I can finish the sketch. And the substitution of the text. Therefore, we have the text feature inside the Part Navigator. By double click on this feature, you see that we have in the text properties the X and Y placeholder, but we need a reference text. And this is what we now can do. We can select the expression and we defined the mass string. So this is what I can select out of this result list. And you see the value, we have the 3.5 kilograms, and I can confirm with OK. And the second dialog window also OK. So now let us check if everything works. That means now we go to the user expressions in the part navigator, and I change the view to the show expression groups. And then I have the validation group, and I can directly change the expression value, double click on height. And now I type in another value, 130 for example, and now we see the effect, the height increase and the weight increasing too. So and now when I type in a higher value, and now the limit should be exceeded. And now that's happened. Now I have the dialog box, the information, what we defined in the expression editor with the info maximum weight exceeded. And when I click the information button, so remember we have interaction. So that means if the value is 1, then we get the print value action, and that's the effect. Now I get the information dialog. So this is only an example to have the value, the actual value of the weight inside. So you can create your own interactions, and now you know how to create such a dialog with NX standard functions, and so you can be creative to use this information for your situations.